Hello, this is Juan Ventura from Period 4 talking about the Romantic era. And what I want to say is Romanticism was brought about by the social and political stress following the French Revolution and the resulting nationalism trends. It was a period of dramatic thought and action, also involving contradictions between capitalism and socialism, freedom and oppression, logic and emotion, science and faith. This resulted in a change in the thinking of people, especially creative artists. There was a general impatience with the rules of restraints of classism, and music revolted against the practices of Mozart and Haydn. The goal was to be different and individualistic. The ideal for the romantic composer was to reflect his own feelings and emotions of his compositions in order to instill in the listener certain preconceived moods. The expression of emotion and the speaking in the and the sparking of the imagination were a primary goal. So mainly what this is saying is that um how the romanticism was made. It was made because of like all the trouble that was going on in the French Revolution, and so artists said, "Hey, I want to make a song or music. Sorry, I want to make music about emotion, etc." So I want to talk about during the Romantic period. Composers used music to express themselves. Orchestral music became more emotional and subjective than in the previous eras. Composers were inspired by romantic love and the supernatural and even the dark themes such as death. Mainly is talking about things like as I said here, romantic love and the supernatural and even dark themes such as death. So, making music like dark and weird and things that music you can love to and stuff like that. I'll talk about the gentle confines of periodic paraphrasing from the classical periods. It grew into lengthy, extended melodic expressions that soared across the new expanses of the developed forms. The Romantic period pushed the older musical forms to breaking point, and in some cases where they are no longer reconcilable. Another thing I want to talk about is how Romanticism was characterized. It was characterized by its emphasis on emotion and individualism, as well as glorification of all the past and nature, preferring the medieval than the classical. It also promoted the individual imagination as a critical authority allowed of freedom from classical notions of art, of form and art. So another non-classical thing that helped in music, non-musical thing that helped in music was arts, is what I'm trying to explain here. So another thing I want to talk about is two composers. One being Beethoven, and the other one being Chopin. I want to talk about Beethoven. Beethoven's music would become the score of the Romantic era. As many of his champions loved how it conveyed the story of the individual free man, oddly enough, Beethoven was anything but a romantic. Romanticism rejected the ability of reason to refine man and societies into perfection. So what it's saying is that Beethoven was a big push in the Romantic era as a composer. So now I want to talk about Frederick Francois Chopin. Um, sorry. Frederick was born on March 1st. That's my birthday. March 1st, 1810. He was a polished composer and a virtuoso pianist of the Romantic era who wrote primarily for solo piano. So as Beethoven was a big push, Frederick was also a big push by his piano techniques. I also want to talk about a composer that really isn't known for his work. I want to talk about I want to talk about Wagner, Richard Wagner. He was the third composer that I was going to talk about. Okay, so here it says no artist expressed the ideals of the 19th century Romanticism more vividly than Richard Wagner. With his operas, or music dramas, as he preferred to call them, Wagner created epic works relating epic stories derived from old European myths and medieval romances. So what they're talking about, or what I looked up and they said, is that Wagner used his opera as Frederick used the piano, and as Beethoven used his music, mainly like that. So I want to talk about one person that isn't really known, um, which his name is Verdi. He's one of those composers that really aren't known, but one of his, I think it's an album, La Forza del Destino. La Forza del Destino contains some of Verdi's most brilliant choral writing and several beautiful and intimate areas. So Verdi wrote music, choral writing, and several beautiful and intimate areas. So that is what I want to cover on the Romantic period. Thank you.